A lot of guitar players are very fearful about getting their hands on their gear and just messing around with all these tools. So we want to make this video explaining how you can use all of them and why you should take your own time and make it happen yourself. But why should you watch this video?
I've been working on instruments and guitars and drums for about 20 years, as well as building all different kinds of electronics and building and maintaining recording studio equipment. So hope you enjoy the video. This here is some of the, typical tools that I use working on the guitar. It's by no means all of them, but it gives you kind of an idea of what you want to collect if you're going to do this type of work yourself. You got your basic cleaners and polishes, a little bit of oil for the tuners, brushes. You got screwdrivers, manual and automatic winders for strings, bridge pin remover. We got some strings here. We got a capo. This is a wrench for various pots on the guitar. You got some Allen keys. It's something to cut with. This is deoxid. This is one of my favorite things right here. This does wonders for all your pots and jacks, especially anything on electric guitars, amps too. Got a couple different things here for dealing with frets and fret polishing. And then if you do have a drill to take, unwind strings, that's great. And then a multimeter. So this deals more with electronics. That's a little more advanced, but you get the idea. So starting off down here at this end, there we have our cleaners and polish for the body of the guitar and the fretboard. I use lighter fluid to clean the fretboards, especially when they're really dirty. This stuff's great. It evaporates instantly. It doesn't leave any residue behind. Always have, some clean rags that you can cut up and or throw away if you need to. Brushes for cleaning, I have a bunch, but there's just a couple examples. Things that'll kind of get into the little cracks and crevices, things like that. This holds the neck of the guitar. I made that myself. Screwdrivers and nut drivers, pretty self-explanatory there. This is for pulling bridge pins. There's different styles of this, but this is just an example. Then you got your classic string winder. This guy here is a little more advanced. If you happen to have power tools, it's great. That does wonders, makes life a little easier for you. Of course, we got strings. Just an example, we all know there's lots of different kinds of strings. This is a good tool to have. This is for tightening up nuts on like tuners or jacks. It can kind of go hand in hand with nut drivers as well. Capo comes in handy sometimes. Of course, a tuner. I prefer a strobe tuner for intonation, but this is just a placeholder. This is a really nice set of tools right here by Music Nomad. Not sponsored, but just to show you, there's different brands of these, but this kind of covers everything from 10 to 130. So this will do all your acoustics, all your electrics, and bass guitars as well. So this is a little more advanced, but it's a good set of tools there. Side cutters for cutting off strings. You want to have a good set of these. Again, I have several different kinds of Allen wrenches and Torx wrenches for a wide range of guitars. So this is kind of a placeholder, but you want to have a nice set of these for adjusting the truss rod. And also sometimes there's set screws on the knobs, and sometimes you need these to get knobs off. You got a string action ruler. Again, different kinds available. Something like that works too. This is a fret rocker. Allows you to check for high frets. This is a really handy tool to have. You can use this while the strings are on the guitar too, so that's nice. A fret end dressing file. We'll get into this more later, but this is probably one of my favorite tools right here. Really simple. Get it from StewMac. They last forever. We have a fret crowning file. Again, this is a little more advanced that most people want to get into, but it is a tool that I use pretty often. As far as polishing goes, we have these things are called micro mesh, and it goes anywhere. Let's see, goes from 1500 to 12,000 grit. So this will really polish up your frets real nice. If you're doing fret polishing, I like to use tape. There's other ways to do it, but I like to use tape. So tape and a fresh razor blade gets the job done. This is Deoxit. Again, this is probably one of my favorite shop tools. It's great because it goes from low to high pressure on the spray, so you can get a little tiny bit or a whole lot. But this will clean out all your pots, all your jacks. It'll repair all kinds of stuff. If you have static or noise, things like that, works great. Multimeter, there's 1,000 uses for this thing, but you can use it mainly to check continuity, and you can check your pickups and things like that. And then, of course, we have the mighty guitar pick. Everybody needs some of those. So there you go.
So if someone was like just getting into working on their own guitars, what's like the first handful of tools you would recommend they get?
The first things I would recommend that they get would be um, maybe some Craftsman screwdrivers, and like even an old toothbrush will work. Maybe something like this, or a little paintbrush, and you need a string winder and some kind of cleaner. You can really get away with just Zippo lighter fluid and some lemon oil, or something like this. This is a fingerboard conditioner. So there's lots of different ways to go as far as that goes. Um, but those few things will get you started. And then got to have the deoxit too, especially if you're working on electrics or acoustics with pickups in them. Got to clean those jacks. And so that and a Q-tip or two, and you'd be good to go. Pro tip that I have for everybody is really important to buy good quality tools. I highly recommend Craftsman. They have a lifetime warranty on their tools. I use these every day. But for the screwdrivers I use constantly, I have Snap-on. These are much higher quality. They're a lot more expensive, but these will definitely last a lifetime, and they're worth it. Um, if you're serious about doing this and you want to do it for a while and you can see yourself doing this for years, it really pays to invest in good tools. So, for example, you have your sort of basic side cutters. You got your better side cutters, like Klein from Home Depot. Klein's a good brand. And then you got your Boss side cutters. You got your Knipex. So, you're talking maybe $8 or $10, $15, $35. But these will last forever, and these are already kind of broken. So, but yeah, just buying good tools. I like things like this where it's a set, where you have minis and you got all your different Phillips and all your flatheads and then Torx on there too. So this one set of tools, it's Craftsman, you can get these at Lowe's. But this one set of tools right here, I use all the time. And always use the right screwdriver for the screw that you're working on. So if you want to work on something with a really small screw, like say, I think this is a single 0, this is a 1, and this one is a 2. So if you got a 2, a 1's not going to work. You'll strip it out, you're going to have a really bad day. So yeah, always pick the right tool for the job and let the tool do the work for you. Sometimes you need a short one, sometimes you need a long one, you know?
Got the whole setup.
Another tip going along with the theme of specific tools for specific jobs is I'm just going to use these cutters and wire strippers as an example. So, for example, these wire strippers here will do a lot of things. They'll also cut wire, but these cutters here are more specific for larger wires, right? So realize that over time, as you're building your tool collection, you're probably going to want to get specific tools for specific jobs just because it makes life easier for you. Could I do everything I needed to do with these 2 wire strippers? Sure. But is it good to have these side cutters and these cable cutters and these automatic wire strippers too? Yeah. I can't use these for everything, and I can't use these for everything. So I could make these work, but it's good to have over time. It's good to have add things to your collection, makes the jobs easier. And who doesn't like tools?
How do you go about choosing which tool is right for which job?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Really, it comes with experience and also sometimes like space. For example, if I'm working in a really cramped space, these wire strippers here might not get the job done, or they might be the only ones that work. But for example, let's use these two as an example. So these are for larger wires, these are for smaller wires. So this guy goes from 10 to 16, and this guy goes from 16 to 26. And that's why these have bands, so I know which one's which without having to take them out and look at them. But yeah, these are Klein. You can get these at Home Depot and maybe Lowe's. Not really sure on that, but you get these at any kind of hardware store. They last a long time. They're good quality tools. It's good to have good things and not spend too much money on them. But if you buy really cheap tools, then it makes your life harder and you're going to end up replacing them anyway. So buy once, cry once. Here we got another example of some specialty tools. Like I said, we got our fancy Knipex, we got our Kleins, and then these are Xlite. I've had these for a really long time, but again, with specifics, like these guys will get the job done, but these right here actually have a special feature. It's a little tiny extra piece of metal on there. What that does is catches the part that you cut off. So if I'm working inside of a guitar or an amplifier or something like that, I might go for these instead because I don't want those little tiny pieces of metal flying off and ended up shorting out the inside of somebody's amp. So, again, these side cutters might get the job done in every case, but having this variety makes life way easier.
And how can people find you on the internet?
Brian Potts Music on Instagram and also HCD Studios. And I'm also managing Ravelint Studios in Baltimore.